evening, I'm Emma Jane Vea and this is Television Tonga News. In the headlines, the Governor of Ha'apai calls for major clean-up activities for Ha'apai. Dr. Isaac Eke accepts the appointment to become the new Minister for Finance and National Planning. And Ha'apai residents coping with the aftermath of Tropical Cyclone Ian. These and more stories, including news from the Pacific, sports, world and the weather information later on in this bulletin. Let's take a look at the news in detail. The Governor of Ha'apai, Lord Duihangana, says an urgent need to be addressed on the island is a clean-up program before assessing other needs of the people. He shared this with Television Tonga News in the aftermath of Tropical Cyclone Ian's visit to the island. He said as the cyclone was approaching, it was clear it would come directly to Ha'apai. This is confirmed on Saturday morning through Radio Tonga when the Tonga Met Service announced that the cyclone would hit Ha'apai by 12 midday. By that time, the strength of the cyclone had increased and the weather was very rough, and this is seen by the destruction the cyclone left behind. He said it's the first time for the residents to witness a cyclone of this category and experience it as well. This went on for an hour or two where they had to follow the updates on Radio Tonga to see when it would pass and where it would go. He says apart from surveying the damage, they need to categorize the extent of the damage to houses. Some houses have completely collapsed, some suffered only partial damages, while most houses only had its roof torn off, while other houses suffered minimal damage. They then need equipment to help clear up the damage and continue from there, according to their talks with the Honourable Prime Minister. He adds that no one knew that the damage would be this bad. Our Television Tonga News crew in Ha'apai captured various images of the clean-up which has started on the island to clear the roads. Some of the houses in Lifuka had its walls and roofs taken off by the cyclone. Many families have sought refuge at evacuation centres set up at church halls and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Television Tonga News crew continues to capture the latest clean-up activities from Ha'apai. It's been 4 days since Tropical Cyclone Ian hit Ha'apai, but residents are still reliving what happened. Our radio and Television Tonga News crew, Pia Olia and Dempsia Nemani, are in Ha'apai, talking to residents who say this is a historic event that they'll never forget. Fatai Whainga'a has the details. Television Tonga News reporter in Bangai, Pierre Olia, confirms that the residents on the island are still trying to cope with the aftermath of Tropical Cyclone Ian. Pierre visited Niue Hospital where the superintendent, Dr. Devita Vakasiwala, says the hospital wing facing the sea suffered much damage from the cyclone. This has somewhat affected their services as they wait for certain equipment from the capital to help continue to provide medical aid to patients. In general, Pierre Olia adds that cleanup has begun. The recent good weather enables them to clear the roads among other activities. Donations and contributions continue to pour in for the Ha'apai group of islands, which was battered by Tropical Cyclone Ian over the weekend. The Free Wesleyan Church of Tonga started collecting various items such as food, drinks, bedding, clothes and other items to send to victims of the cyclone in Ha'apai. The president of the Free Wesleyan Church of Tonga, Reverend Dr. Ahio, says this is one of the church's responsibilities to assist people who suffer from any natural disaster. He adds that it's also important to stand together and support one another as a society. Furthermore, the Free Wesleyan Church Secretary, Reverend Dr. David Havea, is in Ha'apai to assess how best the church can help the residents who suffered from the cyclone. The first part of the Free Wesleyan Church assistance is expected to be sent to the island today. Tonga Communication Corporation's mobile network communications in the Lifuka area in Ha'apai was restored this morning. The communications on the island were down since Saturday when Tropical Cyclone Ian struck the island. Kalaine Tongilava reports.
The acting CEO of the Tonga Communications Corporation, Rizvi Turangapathy, told Radio and Television Tonga News this was made possible after they sent a team from Tonga Tapu, led by the company's chief engineer, Seneve Koso, to help fix the problem. He says the team were able to restore the mobile network and part of the telephone lines in the capital before continuing to other areas on the island.
The services in Ha'apai were disrupted because of the cyclone, and we were able to restore services back this morning. which is of great relief to our customers there and also to the general public whom now they can contact. The mobile network is operating. We will be restoring Nomuka and Hapeva as soon as possible, but it's not working at the moment. As for the fixed line, it's very limited and restricted at the moment because you may know that all the cable network has been damaged. Until the cables are restored, we cannot have these services to the customer premises. But as for our head office, the fixed lines are working and we.
He says the cable suffered most damage from the cyclone.
Slight damage to our building in Pangai, and then also the damages were mainly to the cable, fixed line cable network, which because of the falling trees and branches and debris damaging the cables. As for the mobile network, okay, the antennas were misaligned and they need to be aligned, and there was a lot of rigging work to be done. Well, with regard to the teams to be sent, actually we have our own team in Hapai, and we are very thankful to those who came up, the staff from Hapai, although they had to go through these hardships, they still came.
Meanwhile, another communications company, Digital Tonga, managed to restore its network yesterday morning for the people of Hapai. Reporting for Television Tonga News, I'm Galolaine Tonglava.
The Tonga Red Cross Society has shipped basic necessities to the Hapai group of islands after it was battered by the cyclone, leaving in its wake much destruction. Sinilatu tells you more.
The Secretary General of the Tonga Red Cross, Sione Tamoifolau, says the assistance provided to victims of Tropical Cyclone Ian in Hapai include shelter, water and food. These are one of the pressing needs of the people. We've sent about 300 blankets to Hapai and hygiene kits. Packed inside the hygiene kits are toothpaste and toothbrushes, towels and soap. We've also sent mosquito nets and about 150 tents. One tent can fit in about 15 people. Other assistance includes a water tank, which was sent to Nomuka along with other items. He adds that his staff are working with government in providing and delegating this assistance. For Television Tonga News, I'm Sinilato.
Meanwhile, various rugby tournaments are planned for this Saturday. The money collected will go towards victims in Cyclone Ian in Hapai. And that's the update from Hapai Group of Islands. In other stories today, the role of the Minister of Finance and National Planning is a challenging one. It aims to help the people and carry out its role to the best of a minister's ability. This is voiced by the newly appointed Minister for Finance and National Planning, Dr. Aisake Valueke, in an exclusive interview with Television Tonga News this morning. Kalisto Yonuku has more on that story.
The new Finance and National Planning Minister, Dr. Aisake, says it was a big thing to make the decision to accept the role. However, he was able to make the decision with the collaboration and support provided from his family, the people from his constituency, and his faith. He says with the elections held this year, he believes he can still serve the people with the skills and experience he acquired during the many years he worked for the Ministry of Finance. Dr. Aike also pledged his commitment to the ministry, saying he's confident of better collaboration with the Cabinet, members of Parliament, CEOs, public enterprises and the public. When asked why he didn't accept the post before, Dr. Aike replied that was due to personal reasons. When I was approached for the role of Finance Minister at the time, I was reluctant to accept as the role of Prime Minister had not been filled at the time. Now that the opportunity has presented itself to me, again, I believe it's for the best of the people of Tonga and I'm ready to accept the challenge. The new minister also believes that it is important for government to start reviewing many economic developments, but he will wait to discuss the issues with the members of Cabinet. Speaking about the cost of living allowance for the 5% COLA, he says more money was used for the 60, 70 and 80% increase of civil servant salaries than what is required for the 5% COLA, which is 2 million per anga. From an economic perspective, Dr. Aike says Tonga is different from any other country in the world because it's in a satisfactory state in terms of its social, cultural and its land issues. Yesterday, the Honourable Minister of Finance Dr. Isaac Gege was successfully appointed to the portfolio. The acting Chief Secretary and Secretary to Cabinet, Ahalo Tupalu, presented the letter of appointment of His Majesty King Dubo VI to Dr. Isaac Gege at the Free Wesleyan Church in Wautu'u yesterday evening. Talking Chief Buleku represented Dr. Ike in accepting the role with thanks. He also pledged to perform his duties to the best of his ability and to serve His Majesty's government. The President of the Free Wesleyan Church of Tonga, Reverend Dr. Ahio, attended the event along with family, friends and co-workers. For Television Tonga News, I'm Sini Lato.
Stakeholders are being informed on the importance of civic education and voter information in a 3-day workshop held at Davina House. This is one of the measures made to prepare voters for the upcoming elections held in November.
The Civic Education and Voter Information Workshop informs participants how to form learning modules and guidelines about civics and electoral information, which is to have basic knowledge of one's country and the roles and rights of citizens. The electoral supervisor, Pita Vuki, says the training also serves as a platform for stakeholders to contribute ideas on how to make the voters and the public better understand about the rights of the citizens and how it relates to government decisions. In his speech from the guest representative for the Australian High Commissioner and the Senior Program Manager of the Australian Aid in Tonga, Lilika Fusimalohi, she highlights the full support of the Australian government towards the government's institutions that are transparent, accountable and responsive to citizens' needs and interests.
This program provides support in 3 folds, that is, to the Parliament of Tonga, the civil society and the Tonga Electoral Commission. The highlight of this program is the importance of civic education. It is considered to be a common objective shared by the 3 program components. As such, there are clear advantages in an integrated approach that avoids duplication of effort but maximizes on resource and efficiencies of the interaction of these 3 stakeholders or these 3 entities. Today's bridge workshop training is one of the commencing activities under the agreement with the Australian Electoral Commission's support to the Tonga Electoral Commission.
Ms. Fusimalohi adds that the workshop is one of the commencing activities under the agreement with the Australian Electoral Commissions for the next 3 years. They are pleased with the progress to date and timely with the upcoming elections at the end of the year. The workshop is funded by the Australian Electoral Commission. Participants at the training are from the Education Division of the Parliament of Tonga, civil societies and other members.
That's the local news. Sports is up next with Sinila.